Have you ever looked around your life and thought, how did I end up here? Maybe you're at a job that looks great on paper, but it feels wrong on the inside. Or maybe you're chasing goals that everyone else is proud of, but they leave you feeling empty. I've been exactly where you are. For years, I followed the path others set for me. I had that good engineering job that my parents wanted me to have, with the amazing salary. Everyone told me how lucky I was. On paper, I was crushing it, but inside, I felt a little different. I felt like I was slowly disappearing, losing bits of myself, like I was playing a character in someone else's story instead of mine, until one day I decided enough was enough. If you're feeling stuck on somebody else's path, I'm Diego, Diego, and after leaving my corporate career to build a life on my own terms, I've spent 10 years discovering what it's actually like to create a life that is meaningful and fulfilling instead of just having success on paper. Many of us stay in careers that other people choose for us. I'm here to share the exact steps that I used, and it's helped many others break free and find their own path. So I hope this helps. Let's get into it. Long ago, I remember going to a job that I didn't like for a company that I liked initially, but I grew not to love. Remember sitting at my desk in an office that was dark, it fit the mood, staring at my computer screen and thinking, what the hell am I doing with my life? How did I end up here? I couldn't remember anything that I'd done in the past month that was meaningful to me as a person through that line of work. Showed up, did the job I had to do, I worked hard, but it wasn't aligning with who I was. So I would go and the days would just blur together. Boring day after boring day after boring day with nothing soulful to show for it. Sound familiar? The feeling when Sunday evening comes up and your stomach tightens thinking about Monday morning and the thought is, oh God, here we go again. What are we going to do tomorrow? Is it actually okay to get drunk on a Sunday night? No, it's not. But a lot of us who hated our jobs had those types of thoughts. Or do you catch yourself clock watching and counting down the hours when you leave at work? Or my favorite play was going to the kitchen to see what was going on. When you're at the job and you don't like it, what better than to feed that depression with some food? You hope somebody brought in cookies or bagels or pizza. Maybe you got lucky. And that would add a bit of excitement. Or maybe even the highlight of the day of just, hey, a bathroom break. If that's you, you're not alone. 70% of Americans feel disengaged at work. 70%, according to Gallup. That's 7 out of 10 people. That might not sound like a lot, but if I said 7 out of your 10 closest friends are going to die tomorrow, you'd freak out. That's a lot. So 70% is actually a huge percentage. And it's a shame that many lives are being expensed for nothing except money in the bank. And it doesn't have to be that way. Take it from somebody who once thought it had to be that way and later learned, I was totally wrong. It doesn't have to be that way at all. Here's what nobody tells you about following somebody else's definition of success. It costs you more than just time. When you're on the wrong path, you lose a piece of yourself each day. It's not just about disliking your job. It's about that energy that never comes back after work, which affects you and the people you love around you. The creative ideas you never pursue and you take them to the grave. The graveyard is filled with so many dead dreams of people who died with these amazing ideas. And those dreams went away when they went away. This unfulfillment brings on that Sunday night dread that steals your weekends because you don't want to go back to something that doesn't lead to fulfillment. And it grows a divide between who you are and who you want to be. And that's where all sort of emotional, mental, bad things happen. We can't live the life that we want to be. We're living somebody else's life. And the longer you stay on this path, the harder it is to remember who you really are. You become an automaton, you lose the spark. You lose what makes you, you. And the real cost, it's not just happiness now, it's all the years where you might keep thinking, someday I'll do what really matters to me. But a lot of people don't. So let's try and shift that. If you're one of the people stuck, this video is aiming to get you unstuck and hopefully shift you in a direction of, if not taking movement, at least strongly considering pivoting. Before my change, I walked around like I was in somebody else's life. I didn't feel like I was myself. It didn't feel like I was doing what I wanted. It felt like I was living somebody else's life, following somebody else's plans, not doing what I always wanted to do. I just felt disconnected. And I was a different person at work versus inside of work. At work, there was no joy. I don't think it was the true me. I don't want to say I put up a false front. It was just a very dimmed version of me. Imagine you take a photocopy of something and you take a photocopy of a photocopy of a photocopy. Eventually, you just lose that resolution and you can tell something's there, but there's no clarity. There's no vibrance to it. And that's what I felt, washed out and just void, going through the motions like you'd see in some dystopian futuristic movie of somebody who just works in a cube and gets their work done. That's how I felt. And getting through the day was crazy. The fluorescent lights felt like they were burning through my skull and sucking the life energy out of me. And this is what researchers call emotional labor, having fake emotions that you don't feel. And studies show it's one of the biggest contributors to burnout and depression in the workplace. And I definitely think that's something I was. I was not burned out, but I was surely depressed about the work that I was doing. And that's the path. But what if this path wasn't the only path? What if it wasn't the only option? And what if changing course wasn't viewed as a failure, but instead a leap in the right direction? In fact, it would actually be a leap towards success. For me, everything changed the moment I found out my job was going to go away. My boss was going to leave the company, and the position I had was essentially gone. Just vaporized, because I worked directly for him. The way our company was set up, he was leaving, so they didn't need me anymore. Now, I probably could have sidestepped my way to another job in the company, but I knew right then that my days were literally numbered. 30 to go. The clock was ticking. I could see the end in sight. And it was wild because you'd think I'd feel devastated. Oh my God, I'm going to lose my job in 30 days. But this was like a resurrection, a liberation. It felt like I could breathe again. I'd been given a lifeline of hope. I was getting out of jail, figuratively, in 30 days. Any preconceived barriers I had put up around myself saying you got to stay at this job. It's comfortable. It's easy. You can't go without income. Suddenly, those barriers just eroded away because the job was going away. That changed everything. It was a new beginning. And that's how I knew, and that's how you can know that you're ready to pivot, when that thought of change brings more relief than fear. When you feel that, the pivot is set in. Now, I could have tried to stick around, and that would have been the safe route. But I had had enough of the safe routes. I wanted to live life a little, live on the edge. And psychology shows that our biggest regrets aren't from the risks we take. It's from the chances we never gave ourselves. In fact, a long study found that 76% of people's deepest regrets came from the paths not taken. And as somebody in their 40s, I can say that's absolutely true. My biggest regrets aren't from things I tried and failed at. They're from things I never tried. And this seed idea had been planted into me long before. So when I got this lifeline of getting out, it was like, let's go. Let's run with this, and we're not going to take the safe route here. But if you're watching this, there's concerns, right? Oh, I need income. I can't just quit my job. I have kids, I have a mortgage, I need food. And I'm not saying you need to get laid off or quit your job tomorrow, because my mental pivot started a year before this happened. I started to allow myself to imagine a different reality. I started to ask, what if? What if I made a change? What if I left this job? And if you're feeling that pull to pivot, here's a simple process to help you find your way. First, start listening to your feelings. I mean, really listening. Notice when you feel energized and when you feel drained. Second, look back to look forward. Think about what you love doing before others' expectations took over. Well, who are these others? Well, sometimes it's just societal pressure. You can't leave because how do you get a job? Trust me, you'll always find a new job. After failures and life happenings, I can say you always tend to land on your feet. It doesn't mean there's not rough times or there isn't valleys or there aren't struggles, but everything tends to work out. And I think a lot of older people will echo that. It's hard to wrap your mind around when you're young, but things can work out. And I think Steve Jobs had that famous quote of, you never know exactly how the stars are going to align up front, but looking backwards, it makes perfect sense. When I started to think about this, when I was experiencing joy, I wanted to wake up excited to start each day, to spend my time doing something so immersive that I lost track of time. I wanted to end my days knowing that I did something that mattered to me and to someone else. And that's why I make these videos, because it matters to me and I hope it matters to you. If it does, like and subscribe. And the third step in this process is take what I call a whose voice test. This is important because we can get off track in our lives because someone important to us set us off on a path that wasn't ours. Parents, teachers, mentors, a spouse, they all have well-intended consequences, but often they're projecting their view of the world onto us. As a parent, I have to be cautious of doing that to my daughters, because I felt my parents doing that to me. And that's one of the things that held me at my job of what are my parents going to say? Fourth, start with side steps, not giant leaps. This is where the pivot begins. When I was considering getting out of my job, I started a side hustle to explore what I could do on my own and give me a potential parachute if I ever had to jump. As a bonus, I got some skills along the way. So I went off and I started going to conferences and workshops. I read books. I tried things. I failed. But I no longer sat still and accepted how life was. I started to build a foundation for what life could be. I started arming myself for the battle that I knew would eventually come. So when it came, I wasn't caught off guard or unprepared. I had started amassing troops and supplies, knowing that the day was coming and I would react. Behavioral sciences back this idea up. They call it the little bets approach. Studies show that people who make successful pivots rarely just leap all at once. They test the waters gradually, gathering evidence that the new direction feels right. Nobody's saying jump, saying take a step, evaluate, take another step. And finally, find your people. Connect with others who are doing work that lights them up. Their energy will let you see what's possible, and I guarantee it will rub off on you. And you can connect with people in person, or virtually. There's an amazing array of highly motivational people here on YouTube. Find somebody that resonates with you and let them pump you up and use that energy to fuel you to become the you who you wanted. Back in 2014, 15, 16, I would listen to a ton of those videos. It might sound like woo-woo, but there's people that made a huge impact on me that I will never meet. They gave me the confidence and motivation to say, you can do this. Because around that time, I was running the Permaculture Voices conference, and I was immersed amongst people following their passions, and that rubbed off on me. I started to dabble more and more into entrepreneurship as a result of that. And the more that I did, the more I realized I loved it. I would wake up in the mornings, finally excited to do work. I was ready to flip the switch right away into beast mode and crush the day. That's something I hadn't felt in a long time. It'd be like if you had your thing and it didn't work, and all of a sudden you're George Costanza going, it moved, it moved, it moved. I could feel the movement, and life was never the same again. That energy was my body telling me that this is right. My pivot overall wasn't easy. It took time. There were moments of doubt. Don't get me wrong. I was scared. What do I do? How do I get through this? I had this doubt of especially what am I going to tell my parents? Because at that time, their reaction, their thoughts meant a lot to me. It carried a lot of weight. And I knew that they couldn't understand why I would just throw my career away for the literal unknown. They couldn't get it. And I still remember my dad asking, so what are you going to do now? And I honestly didn't know, but I also didn't care. I just knew I wasn't doing what I didn't want to do anymore. And I knew staying was a bigger waste of my life. And the hardest part was he didn't get that at all. And that hurt. But I had to do what was right for me. And I had to say, whose voice am I listening to? Mine or somebody else's? And I listened to mine, and you know what's funny is, for as worried as I was and as scared as I was, it all worked out. It all worked out. As someone older in life, things always tend to align, and that experience that you pick up along the way can always help you in the future. You know, these career transitions that we do, they're never wasted. This is career capital. It's just how we can take skills and apply them to new things. So when you move on, you take a lot with you. Don't obsess on the fear of it all. Now it's your turn. Let's start with something small but powerful. Take 10 minutes today to ask yourself this question. If success meant being true to myself rather than impressing others, what would I do differently? If success meant being true to myself rather than impressing others, what would I do differently? Write down your answer, even if it scares you a little. Don't worry how you'll make it happen yet. That's not important. Just naming what you truly want is a powerful first step. Then choose one tiny step towards that vision that you can implement this week. Maybe it's reading an article. Maybe it's having coffee with someone who can help you. Maybe it's spending 30 minutes just doing something that brings you joy so you can feel it move. It moved for the first time in a long time. This is what psychologists call implementation intention. When you specify exactly when and how you'll take action. When you do this, you're almost 100% more likely to follow through. Remember, redefining your path doesn't happen overnight. It happens in one small, brave step at one time, repeated over, and over. You don't have to have all the steps figured out to begin with. You just need the courage to listen to your own voice about what success really means for you, and have that courage so you can take the first step in your journey to change. I'd love to know what small pivots you're considering in your life right now. Share them in the comments below, and let's support each other taking those brave first steps. If this resonated with you, subscribe for more conversations about building a life that actually feels like yours, and hit the notification bell so we can keep connecting. Thank you for watching. Until next time, be nice, be thankful, and do the work.